How's the new house?
Good. Can you come over?
I can't. Are you okay?
I am going to die tomorrow.
I was so fascinated by the choices of when to have really abrupt cuts with the editing and when to kind of have like the heavy sound cues and the music build up, the different neon tones. I was wondering if you could discuss your process in working with those different departments and really deciding when to hit those beats in the film.
Sure. I mean, with the process of like building sort of the look and the colors, and that was definitely a collaboration with Jay Keitel, the cinematographer. He and I have worked together for, I met him on his thesis film like 17 years ago or something.
Oh, wow.
I acted for him. And so he and I have been collaborating for years and years and years. He shot Sun Don't Shine. He shot my second season of The Girlfriend Experience, and he shot a short that I made called When We Lived in Miami. And then I've also just worked with him as an actress for years. But we when we were developing sort of the look of the whole thing and going from these sort of what I wanted to do is go from these textures or these colors and even in the editing of like mundaneness of like like a domestic look that looks very sort of calm and normal, and then go to these heightened, subjective realities with these like hyper colors and sort of what you would imagine if you're, or what has been described as like what people see in when they're dying, which is like, flashes of colors and sort of going towards the light and getting really rich in those tones. But also part of the narrative that I thought that's part of, I guess, a sense of humor of the movie is abruptly cutting from these extremely indulgent and self-indulgent moments into like the bigger picture of like, this is what it looks like when these people are being really self-indulgent, right? So
Right.
Because that's how I feel about my own sort of anxiety and what really is at the heart of the film is like my own anxiety and my anxiety about death, and realizing how self-involved and indulgent I get. But if you looked at it from the outside, even though it's just like turmoil internally for me and it feels like too much that I might explode, if you just looked at a wide shot of me from a distance, it just looks like I'm sitting still and staring at the ground. So like, and it's kind of comical. It's like, it inside it feels like, oh my God, how am I going to escape this? And it's like drama, right? But then from the outside, it's just me like sitting very still. And you know what I mean? Like it's right. And then it becomes really funny. So like, and then part of my personality is like allowing myself to go to these very dark places and then laughing at myself at how indulgent I get. So that's sort of the rhythm of how, the editing and the shot design and also with the colors and like jumping back and forth from subjectivity to objective, sort of like, oh, this woman looks crazy. The truth of the matter.
What is going on? There is no tomorrow for me.
All right, listen, Amy, I'm really freaking out right now. I feel like you put this idea of dying in my head. Can you just call me back?
With the physicality of your character, that was something that I was discussing with Amy, is that exposition to me is really expressed through the movements of your character and not so much the dialogue. Were there conversations that you had with Amy, perhaps during pre-production or in the rehearsal process, where you guys kind of really worked out like specific kinks or movements, or were you just really in tune with Amy as a character and just followed your instinct?
I think a part of it is that Amy and I have known each other for a long time and worked together a number of times before. And so there is sort of a shorthand that exists between the two of us. And if she describes a particular tone or a vibe that she's going for, I think I don't have an easy time, but it is somewhat clear to me what she might be looking for. But yeah, at the beginning of the shooting process, she definitely talked a lot about how the character was relating in a very physical way to her house that maybe would seem abnormal to people, but the absurdity of like owning something in general was very, interesting to Amy. So yeah, I think a lot of the physicality is just like touching the floor, for example, which is not something that you do very often, but like weird. Why do this is so strange. Yeah.
Sure. Now, Jane, for you, I know that you come from a theater background, and I started in theater as well. And so whenever I watch films, I always kind of instinctively wonder, like, could this have gone on stage? Would it have functioned better on stage? And with this film, I think it functions best on film because of the nuances, and there's so many quiet moments that I think could have otherwise been lost on a stage. So I was curious if your approach to Jane as a screen character is different than you would approach a character on stage.
What a good question. Now you've made me, I'm going to be wondering about that. And it's been a long time since I've done anything on stage. I just think there's no rehearsal with film. I mean, not much. I mean, really, there's none. You're just in the moment, and there's a relationship with the camera is very different than a relationship with an audience. And yet, that camera lens represents a lot of eyeballs. So there's I'm sure I'm going to be figuring this out for the rest of my life.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's come up before, but you asked it so well, and it's just that
thank you.
In my life, I really do wonder about that.
Sure.
You expecting someone?
Hello, Jane.
You okay?
I just have this feeling I'm going to die tomorrow.
But how do you know?
I just know.
Okay, so you don't know.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
I just thought for a second when the lights went out that was it.
I was just on the edge of my seat the whole time. I actually paused the film at one point to go get a cup of tea to calm me down because I was just so like anxious and nervous with Amy. So I was wondering if you can talk about kind of, how did you keep up the momentum of kind of making us feel, at least from my perspective, I felt like I was in Amy's head the whole time. I felt like it was very reflective of the racing that was going on in her mind. And so, what was your method for making sure that it wasn't overwhelming, but that you kind of kept the audience's attention and made sure they were on their feet with Amy?
Why, I'm glad that you feel that way. I mean, I really like, I really like mystery, if that makes sense. Like I'm not sure if you can tell, but I'm not a big fan of exposition. So, and so, but I think that, and because I don't like exposition, I think that informs sort of the way that I make films, but I also love the tension that it builds because there's so many questions when you start a film, and as opposed to, I guess I lean into that and go, the audience is going to pay attention to these really minute details if I don't, and ask a lot of questions that I know in the beginning of the movie that people are going to be like, is this a suicide movie? Why is she behaving this way? Like, and I want that. I like that tension, and so I like that tension. I like starting from that place and then allowing them, like, certain questions to start getting answered as the movie progresses. And if you really break it down, it does follow sort of a traditional narrative arc, in terms of like right around 15-minute mark we know what's going to be happening the rest of the movie, even though it's wild and feels wandering. It ticks in these whatever these filmmaking books that tell you how to write a movie. It actually, in terms of like the way that the script functions, it's actually quite traditional. But utilizing that and utilizing the genre elements, but also the air of mystery to like keep the audience questioning, and then giving them a little bit of an answer to keep them, going throughout the film in combination with all these, genre tropes and stuff, is sort of well, I'm glad to hear that you said it was effective, but was what I was trying to do with the audience.
She could be right.
The only thing I love more than a film that's made by primarily a team of females is having lead female characters that are complicated and have, kind of their own issues. Can both of you speak to, the challenges and the benefits of playing women who have like very real hard issues that we just don't see in mainstream cinema that often?
You go first, Kate.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the only thing that I'm interested in doing. We're human beings, wouldn't you know? And I just don't have much interest in playing a character unless they're as unusual and complicated as all of my, heroes and closest friends. And Amy is so good at writing those characters. So it's always my favorite working experience to be in one of Amy's movies.
Yeah, I second that. And also, I just feel like I don't tend to draw the line between men and women so much. I like when Kate said, we're human beings. And I feel like everyone is so complicated and there's a lot going on. And the fact that I'm looking through a microscope at these slides of like just how much is going on in a little piece of mold, and then you have men and women walking around with, viable eggs and hormones and the men with testosterone and thing. And I feel like there's a lot of trying to deny that or say people should be this way and men should be this and women should be that. And, I'm a feminist. And it's like, really, you're actually just a lot of chemicals and water walking around, on both sides. But that sort of fascinates me. So.
No, I agree. That's great.
I love Amy goes there. So.
Sure. Kate, another question that I had for you was, I loved that we got to see a little bit of the lighter side of Amy, kind of, when her relationship was in its beginning stages and obviously the physical tone of the film changed during that time. I was curious if, as a character, you approached her differently when you were playing those two contrasts of her.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're both, they're two faces of the same coin, but yeah, I think there was a very intentional move to show an earlier version of her. And that was definitely aided by the fact that Amy cast Tucker, oddly, in the role of her sort of new boyfriend. And Tucker and I, have a long history of having worked together and having known each other for a long time. And so there is a built-in chemistry or ease with which we act with one another.
They're also both super hot. Is that
that helps,
Wow, this is great.
You're worried about catching something?
This is how it ends.
I wanted to know that if you knew, for certain, anything that could happen in your life, one thing that you just knew was going to happen, whether it was about family or fortune or your career, what would be the one thing that you would choose to know and why?
Ooh.
Oh my God, that's so hard.
I don't think I would want, I think that that's too much power. And I think it would cause, like, if you knew, like, when somebody was going to die or, like, I don't have children, like, when I was going to have kids and how many kids, I think the idea of, like, the future would cause me so much anxiety and can you tell I'm an anxious person?
If we know what was going to happen is the question.
Like if you could know one thing, like in the same way that your characters knew that they were going to die tomorrow, if you could know one thing for certain would happen in your life.
What a great question.
Thank you.
Everything causes me anxiety. Let's get real. But it would cause me so much anxiety and distract me from living in the now. If we want to get zen about it, and I think that it would really take away from my experience of living for the moment. You know, if I knew even just one element of the future, you would just be obsessing about when you're going to get to that moment.
I can tell you Amy's answer.
Yeah.
She said she wouldn't want to know anything. She said it would riddle her with anxiety, whether it was something good or bad. She just felt like it would be too much power for one person to have.
See, that's why we need Amy, because
That's why she needs to write our answers for us.
yes, that's I don't know why I don't have a script.
Would you two have probably the same answer? You wouldn't want to know anything?
I think I would want to know. Not sure how that would work out. It might not work.
Maybe it'd be nice to know if at some point, like, I would find a better relationship to my own anxiety. That would be cool.
Wouldn't that be nice?
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
I think we'd all take that information. Well, ladies, I appreciate your time so much. Thank you for sitting with me today.
Thank
Thanks.
you so much.
Lovely. Thanks so much. Have a good day.
You too.
Something really bad is gonna happen.
I'm ready. She did this.